welcome to Web of Light, where we are weaving a web of light in the world, and we bring on guest information, ideas, thoughts to also help you weave a web of light in the world. My guest co-host this month is Matt Connarton. Welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
You've seen Matt as a guest. If you ever watch if you ever listen to the Dr. Kevin radio show, you know Matt does the first Thursday of every month. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a semi-regular on Matt's drive-through show called, now, is it Matt Connarton Unleashed or Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon? That
iteration of the show is Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon. It's not drive-through, it's drive time.
I always think of drive-through because it always strikes me as something fast food about it. I don't know.
Well, maybe we need a food segment. After all, I always say it is my stomach's world. You all just live in it.
Yeah, I know. So Matt's going to be joining me for the month of February as my guest co-host and doing lots of different shows going on. So now your drive time show, drive-through. 4 to 6 in the afternoon.
4 to 6, yep.
And it comes, now it's what, 95.3 or something?
95.3 in Manchester, New Hampshire, yep.
Yep, but it's still technically through the public access system, correct? Yes?
No, it's separate.
Oh, it is now?
It is,
okay.
yep.
So you're on 95.3 and you can listen to that whenever you want.
Yep.
And there's...
you can stream it online at ipmnation.com/live1.
There you go.
So you can add, because we have listeners from all over the country.
Yeah. So now, for those of you who have seen Matt and I last year did Surviving the Trump Presidency. We've done a lot of different things. So over the next month, as Matt is joining me with other guests on the show, our introduction is probably likely to maybe take a little bit of a political turn here and there.
It could.
It could. It's been
Who
known.
knows?
It's been known to happen. But for those of you who wonder why people would talk about politics on a spiritually based show, because first of all, there's the spirit of politics, and second of all, you know, whatever you put out into the world is what comes back to you. And one of the things you put out into the world is your voice, the petitions you sign, the votes you cast. If you don't like what's going on in our political world, remember, because it's your political world too, that it's a reflection of you.
That's right.
So
if you don't get into politics, politics will get into you, like it or not.
Yep. So, so that being said, today is our first one, and is our first show that we're taping for the month. We tape all on one day. But I do want to pretty quickly slide over because of our guest today. We're not going to get into anything deep. That's going to be for some future shows. Before I do that, I do want to remind people, the Web of Light is available now on the public access system from Maine to California. We've got different stations that have picked us up. We continue to get new stations picking up us up all the time, and we don't know about it. So if you want to send something to Dr. Kevin, DrKevin, at mydrkevin.com, let us know, or actually Dr. Kevin at weboflight.com, either one. Let us know that you've joined us. We'll welcome you to our Web of Light family. And we're always looking for people that are weaving a web of light. So if there's somebody that you think we should have on in the show, let us know. They don't have to live in the Hudson, Nashua, southern New Hampshire area. We can Skype guests in and things like that.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, we'll do that. But today is our time of Pisces.
Time of Pisces.
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
Well, we always have our Web of Light astrologer, Dorothy Morgan, come on. And Dorothy will tell us what the energies are going on, in the universe, so to speak. Please remember, here we give you more information with which to make better decisions. And nobody has more information to give you about what's going on in the planetary influences and the skies and the stars than our own star, our Web of Light astrologer, Miss Dorothy. Welcome, Miss Dorothy.
Hi, thank you.
Wow, with an intro like that, she needs one of these too.
I know, that was a great intro.
Dorothy's in town.
Ta-da. Thank you. Thank you.
So, first of all, I want to start by you telling us what's coming up in this time of Pisces. I got Pisce'd out for you. I have my Hawaii jewelry, my shell,
Yeah.
purples, all
Yeah.
the little stuff that, you know,
Yeah.
as you do. So
I
we're
did. I
Pisce'd.
put on some purple. I mean, purple isn't necessarily Pisces, but it's just those softer pastel-y colors, kind of like what we have behind us.
Yeah.
You know, they're really
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
things. Yeah. So,
Huh.
because Pisces, each zodiac sign has an element that they're in charge of, and Pisces is all water. It's mutable water. So, and it's the last zodiac sign when we start at spring again, right? So when we have that, so this is the time that we feel we should be feeling more at one with everything. We should start to pull everything together since the beginning of the astrological year, which starts March 20th. So we're at that final zodiac sign. Each zodiac sign builds on the one prior to it. So Aries adds into Taurus, Taurus into Gemini, and all the way through. So this is the final sign. It's like the big melting pot of everything. So
Well, and I always find the time of Pisces is that time where you start to get hope that winter's not going to last forever. By the time
right.
Pisces, you know, by the time that you finished with Pisces and you're moving to Aries, you're definitely getting some spring, some spring teasers, if
Yes.
not full in.
it depends on what latitude you live in too, but you know, or where north or south you live. So, you know.
Well, and also what the groundhog decides. That guy.
It's such a representation of spring in the pagan world and Bridget, you know, coming out of the underworld and starting to, you know, emerge into spring. And that's the groundhog coming out of the ground. And it's a whole pagan Celtic story, which is, you know, makes a lot of sense in rituals that we do nowadays, like a groundhog predicting.
No, I didn't know the groundhog was Bridget's totem animal.
It is.
I thought I was just throwing that out there being silly. I didn't know that.
There's a whole lot of history behind it.
I didn't know I was saying something legitimate. Wow.
Well, see, that's the thing. You know, most people don't recognize that a lot of, and this always gets a lot of flack. Sorry, guys, it'll be your inbox. a lot of modern day and even Christian things are really based on pagan rituals because they were trying to integrate the locals when it started, when all in Christianity was really, you know, picking up steam. That's how they got people in on it. So anyways, but that's Pisces too, because Pisces energy is about integrating everything you know. It's about pulling things together. It's about spirit, and it's about the unconscious mind, and it's about what we do when it's really private to us, because that area of the zodiac has a lot to do with, you know, bettering ourselves, but it's just that personal journey. It's not something we see on the out. And it's about seeing the bigger picture. Even if there are some really yucky things going on, which are true, it's still, you know, stepping back and looking at the bigger picture. In a way, I mean, if we were just to take a look at the Earth from space, it looks beautiful and blue and vibrant and alive, and there's a lot of that in the planet. But there's also pockets of things that aren't so great. But that's Pisces. It's pulling back and looking at the bigger picture. And that starts February 18th.
This is going to seem completely random, but it just occurred to me. Do you ever, because this flat Earth movement has gotten so big, do you ever encounter flat Earthers who want to argue with you, who tell
I
you
don't
that,
argue with people.
that this you just do you
No.
just ignore them?
I do.
But have you ever heard from a flat Earther who questions?
I have not, but I do know who
That's-
they are.
Yes.
Yes, but they have not approached me. Because I'm passive. I don't care. I
Yeah,
mean, in
yeah.
the grocery store the other day, I started taking astronomy classes because I want to know how the astronomy and astrology comes together, because it's been years. I just didn't want to get into that science piece of it, and I love it. And I was talking to somebody in the grocery store. They knew who I was, and then she started talking to somebody else, and he goes, he gets his nose up in the air and he goes, well, I was talking about astronomy, and astrology is not a science. And he starts going off on me, and I just looked at him and I said, how long have you studied astrology? And he goes, I haven't. And I'm like, okay. And I just walked away. You can't do that.
Just
Come
walked
on.
away? No,
I
like
walked away.
knee to the groin or anything like
No.
that to punctuate it?
No, I mean, he works at the grocery store, so I see him all the time. But you know what? That's just narrow-minded. It reminds me of Pisces. Open your mind a little bit. Open your mind.
Well, you know, one of the interesting visuals that you gave, which is a good description, is, you know, when you're hanging out at Aquarius, you're looking at society and kind of mankind, but you
Yeah.
haven't broken the atmosphere because you're close enough that you're seeing what is the movement of humanity and how are we interacting, and we kind
Yes.
of can go through the globe. When we break the atmosphere and we look down at the globe, it looks like this big thing of water
Yes.
with a few things floating in it,
Yep.
and that's the Pisces view.
Yes, ma'am. Or sir.
Yeah.
Why did I say yes, ma'am?
Oh, no, it's okay, Dorothy. There's no such thing as gender anymore.
That's right. That's Pisces world.
That's why we have to get rid of these pronouns. We won't get into that, but it's fine.
So now there's always an association in my mind where Pisces is also a place where we can see past life stuff show up.
We can. It's the unconscious. It's the unconscious mind and the world that we really can't put our fingers on. So it is. So when we have that past lives, some people agree with that. It's also the South Node. It's also the fourth house. It's also the eighth house. So basically, or Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, water energy.
Yep.
It's the water signs, but especially Pisces, since Pisces is everything. Then if it's everything, then it is all of the lives that we've had. So if you even believe in that, and even if you don't believe in that, which is fine, it's an immutable sign, it's fine, then you get to, then we can, I lost my train of thought on that one, never mind.
Well, you know, it's okay because, you know,
Pisces.
I can't remember the exact Morpheus quote, but it's like, you know, my belief does not require your belief in it to
Yes.
exist.
Right.
And I always love that quote by Morpheus in The Matrix. And in the case of Pisces, you don't have to believe in past lives for the
Right.
fact that they happen and they're affecting you.
Yeah. Right.
And just like your boyfriend in the grocery store.
Yeah, he probably just, he likes you, and that's why he was.
That's all
sometimes
right.
people do
Married
that.
man, we ain't not going there.
But you know, it's so funny, and we have this going on in the world. So I'll be interesting to see what is coming up in the time of Pisces astrologically, because we definitely have an all-time high in polarized us and them, and blindness to see anything except what we have decided, whatever altar you're praying at, whatever they're preaching,
Yeah.
and so there is a lot of blindness where people aren't looking at the whole picture and aren't looking at everything. And now we're coming into a time where it's like, okay, so what's going on in the time of Pisces?
So when we have Neptune in the sign of Pisces, he's been in there for years. He's in his own zodiac sign for the first time since we even knew he was there, because he takes over 160 years to go around the solar system with us. So he's been in Pisces for a while. He's going to be there 21 years. So with Neptune in Pisces, he's just been in the first 10 degrees until recently. And that first 10 degrees of every zodiac sign is when we're still trying to get our feet wet. It's like walking into the water at a lake or whatever, the ocean. You slowly get accustomed to it, and then it doesn't feel so cold. So you hit those parts, and then you're like, you got to just go in and then get
We know what you mean by
acclimated.
those parts,
Yes,
yes.
we do. And then we have to get acclimated. And once we're acclimated, then we're in the soup, we're in the water. And this is where we're at now. Neptune is finally beyond those 10 points, those 10 degrees. And so this month, and it's typical when the sun is in the sign of Pisces now, Venus is also there, and it will connect with Neptune on February 21st, because the sun moves into Pisces on February 18th. So Venus already in Pisces, that's romantic. So we're going to have our heads in the clouds for a little while still, especially for all of February and into early March, because there is still no retrograde planets, few of them slowing down, but Venus in Pisces, Mercury is in Pisces too. So these two planets inside our orbit, they're pretty strong. That means communication and the things we value all get a little foggy, all get a little watery. Open your eyes underwater and see how it's not clear. You hear sound underwater, muffled. So that means, and they're both connecting with Pisces, in Pisces and connecting with Neptune. There we go. So for a couple of weeks, especially right around the 21st, 25th, that last 10 days of the 21st to the 28th. That's it in February. So the last week of February,
Yeah.
let's correct myself. Things will seem a little foggy, a little fuzzy, no sharp edges. Everything's sort of just,
I will have just got back
Filtered.
from my honeymoon.
and you'll still be all like
I'll be
floating high.
like, oh,
Whatever.
where's my pina colada? What do you
Right?
mean I can't wear shorts and bare feet out?
I know. But what can we do with this stuff? Some of the things, so while we may feel a little detached, things may seem a little foggy, not too clear. This isn't true for everybody, but it will be true for a lot of people. That's that overall look. No straight answers from anybody. This will give us an idea of what's going on in the media. Everything will just be a little diluted. No clear answers. Not till Mercury gets into Aries, and that's a little later. I'll talk about that. So what do we want to do with this? Go swimming. Listen to music. You said this time of year you love to listen to music. So
Classical music this
Classical
time of year,
music.
yeah.
But that's really Pisces. Hard rock, really hard edged, loud stuff isn't Pisces. It's that smooth stuff. It's meditation. So these are the things we want to do. We want to meditate. We want to pay attention to our dreams. We want to, crystal bowls, anything, chanting, any of those things that are really spiritual, Pisces, and no hard edges.
Okay.
Poetry is beautiful too, if you're a writer.
Oh yeah, you read poetry.
I read a lot of poetry.
Beautiful for writing songs, things such as that. All right, we clear on that?
I get to have a week of Bohemian.
Oh, yay.
Oh wow.
It's my week of Bohemian. I'll come back and all this stuff will come crashing down that needs to get taken care of after I was gone for 10 days. And I'm going to be like, oh, we can wait another
Yeah.
day. Let me do a sonnet.
Well, February 25th and February 28th, since Venus is just a little bit in front of Mercury right now, so Venus hits first until Mercury catches up. There's a square to Mars, so February 25th to the 28th. So while everything is what I already said, there's also this little hard edge going on here. So the little hard edge has a lot to do where it can produce some motivation where we may not be feeling any. It's not going to be like massive full steam ahead, and we're in a new moon phase because we had a solar eclipse on February 15th in Aquarius. And so we're still in that new moon phase just after an eclipse. So we have these opportunities to start moving towards things that we want, especially if we can set long-term goals.
Now, the edginess that's going to come up with the Mars-Venus square for those 3 days, could that apply out in your relationships as, you may be having a partner that's pushing you to make some kind of decision or wants to move forward on something and they're a little irritated because you're a little fuzzy about that.
Yeah.
But then it turns around and you want them to make a decision about something else that they don't. So it's very interesting. Wherever you're at counter priorities with your partner, those will be 3 days where each of you is going to be irritated with what's going to come across as a dreamy response from your partner.
Or a misunderstanding.
Or misunderstanding.
Because we have the Venus, which it can be our love relationships or what it is we value in life, even finances. So don't make any big financial decisions this last week of February either. Do what you have to do, but no massive choices, right? And then, and then with Mercury there too, Mercury is our communication and how we are talking back and forth with others. So we may not be clear. So ask the person you're talking to, and this is not necessarily just your romantic live-in spouse partner. It can very well be a business partner. And that Venus energy also represents, close friends that we feel a commitment to. So your best friends.
Intimate relationships.
Really, I know, but sometimes when you say intimate, people just think somebody that you sexual with, and that's not intimate. I mean, those are your best friends that know everything about you. Those are your intimate relationships. That's Venus's territory. So if just make sure that you ask questions so there are no misunderstandings.
Yep.
We can push through this. It's like the fog, and if you're driving at night and it's foggy out, you don't turn your lights on high beams on because you blind yourself. You keep the beams low, you go slower.
Or you put on your fog lights.
If you have them.
I know. I know. Not everyone has them.
We will take this as a very quick educational 30 seconds.
Yeah.
When we say intimate relationships here on Web of Light, we're trying to upgrade your vocabulary and your understanding. It isn't just who you may have a sexual relationship with. Okay. In fact, you can have sexual relationships with people and not be intimate with them.
It's so true.
Intimacy is when you have a deep, emotional, connected relationship with somebody, and it's, and it goes back and forth. And so this could be siblings, this could be parents, this
Right.
could be best friends. These are close, intimate, personal relationships. You can sit down on a cup of, and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine on the couch with, and there is that really close connection. So now you know what intimate means. Get your mind out of the gutter. Venus is not in Scorpio anymore. Venus is now in Pisces.
So the 11-year-old boy in me that chuckles when I hear that, I
Yeah.
do not do that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so very true. All right, moving on to March 1st. On March 1st, Venus will trine Jupiter. All this is Jupiter's in Scorpio. Now, this is the intimate relationship that you're looking for. So if you do have somebody that you're really close to and intimate, this is a much better day to have a romantic day as opposed to Valentine's if you watched last month's episode.
Ugh.
Valentine's Day isn't quite so great for overly romantic, all that stuff that day is supposed to have. They should just move Valentine's into Pisces. I don't know why it's in Aquarius. It doesn't belong there. It really doesn't.
Well, it takes a constitutional amendment to move it.
There you go. Well, then
Did you know
that's
that?
the Aquarius. I
No.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
Oh
true.
my gosh.
I made that up.
So on,
Okay.
that's
Yes.
Pisces. He made it up. Sorry,
Yes.
guys, that is not true.
No,
He
it's
said
not
so.
true. No.
All right, March 1st, we also have the full moon at 11 degrees of Virgo. So the sun's at 11 Pisces. This is 11 Virgo. What this is just about is focusing in on some details. It will help us bring the details back in a little bit since we've been pretty foggy for a little while.
Okay.
So it will help with that. Help us to see where we may have missed, what we may have missed. So those communication things. Virgo's ruled by Mercury. Mercury's in Pisces, meaning this gives us a great opportunity for straightening out any misunderstandings.
The ones we had those 3 days.
Right, right, because they were just right before March 1st.
Yep.
Remember, 28 days in February this year. So, all right, the next big thing on Sunday, March 4th, is the sun will then connect with Neptune in Pisces. To me, people think of it still as all the dreamy things, but when the sun comes out, the fog goes away. So to me, for a day or two, right around March 4th, that's a Sunday, we have an opportunity where the sun's going to clear the fog a little bit for us, so we're able to see what's really happening kind of behind the fog, behind the illusion of what's going on.
And that's the word I was thinking is it's the illuminating that breaks through the illusion
Yeah, for sure.
when it's there. And there's a lot of energy there because you still have Venus there and Mercury there. So
Yes.
it's all going to be popping each other to some degree.
This happens this time every year, and so it means if you know your own chart, you just look where your Pisces is, and it's most likely going to encompass it's going to be in two different sectors of your chart. So, because nobody has a perfect equal house system unless you use that system, and I don't. So, needless to say, that's one of the things we have. So you know that this is going to go on in our own lives somewhere. For me, this is in my Pisces territory. It's in 12th house. So for me, it's all about just connecting to the spirit, to the soul, and do the work that I love to do, and bring the unconscious things forward, and just talk really flowery and really spiritual, which I practice privately, but it's not, unless I'm in this type of environment, most people don't see the big, deep spiritual stuff that I do. And with the sun connecting to Neptune, you can bring that forward if you choose to.
Yeah, mine will be probably still in the third because mine goes over the third and the fourth. So
Yeah, mine's 11, 12, but I know where these degrees are, so I know where it is exactly
Yeah.
for me. So,
So yeah,
Yeah.
if it's in your 12th by that point, it's probably in my fourth.
yeah.
Dorothy and I have an interestingly dancing chart.
We do. That's why we work together well.
I'm generally baffled by numbers.
I love it. I just love it. I mean, you know, I'm almost going to learn the trigonometry to do
Oh, my
these charts
goodness.
by hand. I'm really,
Sounds terrifying.
I know. I'm for the Aquarius mood right now.
What is your sun sign,
I'm not
Matt?
good at math. My sun's sign?
Because that's all we're going to know here. When were you born?
October 26th.
Scorpio.
Scorpio, yeah.
I'm told I'm on the cusp.
Well, the 26th is not the, you know, the cusp is 0 degrees, and you're beyond that.
I've been told the wrong thing. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
No.
people like to say that. People like to say, oh, Mercury's retrograde too.
Well, next time someone tells me I'm on the cusp, I'm going to say, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
No,
Dorothy told me
I have
I'm
your
not.
chart anyway, so I could look it up. I know I
Yes.
have it.
Oh,
so
you have his chart?
I do.
Oh,
It's yeah, from years ago. Years and years ago, we did work together too. We also have, around March 4th, Mercury and Venus and Chiron. I don't talk about Chiron too much. Chiron is a very big asteroid that we use out in the system, and he's called the Wounded Healer. And these guys are all in Pisces, called a stellium. There's three or more together. This is an opportunity, this is a deeper opportunity, some people won't recognize it, to heal some old wounds. Really deep emotional wounds. So if you're somebody who can get into that place and can really understand, it is not superficial at all. You have to really be involved in what your life path is, what your spiritual life path is. So if you know that there is, you know, a parent issue or just something extremely deep, when these three guys are connecting the way they are once a year, we have an opportunity to work with this. And they don't always connect exactly because Venus and Mercury, while they connect a lot, they still have a cycle and they don't always connect at the same place in each area. So I don't know when the last time this happened, but it doesn't happen as often as we would think it does all together.
How long does it take Chiron to get around the chart?
50 years. So when people hit their 50th birthday is when Chiron, from where it started, from when you were born, comes around. And this is an initiation into, if you choose, into a higher spiritual understanding. This is when typically people will release more of the material world and understand that they're living from a place that has meaning and a spiritual meaning. And it doesn't mean we go all religious on ourselves or things like that. We could, but we recognize that there's a bigger picture. If we haven't already stepped into that through practices, I mean, we've done it for years, but a lot of people at 50 will say, this job doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I need to have a job that has some meaning. I just can't go do X, Y, and Z anymore. That's the Chiron return.
Well, it's very interesting because I never made that connection until right now as we were talking about it, because I knew that my Chiron was in Pisces,
Mine
as
as well.
yours.
Yes.
That if you look at, and Chiron has a very Piscean energy
He is.
as a wounded healer.
He is, but they relate him to Sagittarius because Chiron is, I can't get into the mythology. Never mind.
But I would not. Knowing what Chiron is and
Yes.
knowing it as a wounded healer, I would look at Pisces as being the place where it's most thrilled to be as far as the supporting energy.
Yeah.
But what I think is funny is that Chiron comes more or less 8 years before your Saturn return. So the Piscean part of it is it's your last stage of everything before you move into your next stage as kicked
Correct.
off by your Saturn return.
Exactly. There are long-term cycles, and maybe we'll have a class on that. Maybe we'll have
a show on it.
that.
We can do that.
What the real long-term cycles are. And so that is very, very true. So working through old wounds. We never say this, I don't say this halfway through the show, but I have this written out on my website. So people can go and read all of this for details. And so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. So find your sacred space, hit some meditation, do a little more meditation than you usually do, yoga, whatever you love that gets you into out of your head space, and just get in there. And that's what we can do early March. This is a really great opportunity to find a sense of healing for us. Now, on the 5th or the 6th, depending on what coast you're on, it will be the 6th here, the 5th on the West Coast. this is when things go shifting now because Mercury enters Aries now. So, and then he's going to stay in Aries until May 13th. So now all this meditation, flowery, hippie stuff, if you want to call it that, will blow out the window because now Mercury in Aries is going to, it's like somebody just storming in the door after everybody's meditating. It's just somebody walking into the middle of your meditation and hollering at the top of their lungs, hey, what you doing? You know?
That's just rude. Rude and rude.
It's Mercury in Aries.
Wow.
Mercury moves and he retrogrades in that sign.
I was going to say, if he's there until May, he's retrograding in that sign.
He is. Retrograding in the fire sign. We talked about that in our yearly forecast and
Yep.
how Mercury is retrograde in all the fire signs this year. That's the way it goes. Each year has an element that it's going to focus in on for the most part. So Mercury in Aries is very direct, very outspoken, not afraid to say anything that's on its mind. Wherever this Aries is, that energy is going to get kicked up in your chart. Also my 12th house, because I have a humongous 12th house. And so, I don't know, I could start saying stuff. I don't usually like say things off the cuff.
And you said that's going to happen March 5th? Mm-hmm. Well, you know what March 5th is.
What's March 5th?
It's the next day that we do our taping day for the show.
Oh, that's right.
That's going to be quite the day of taping.
Let's see what
Mercury's going to run right into.
Let's see what day. No, sorry. I mean it is, but Mercury is still at the in Pisces, and it doesn't enter Aries until 11:34 p.m. West Coast on the 5th, and it is at 2:34 a.m. on Tuesday morning here.
That might be a good thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think having a Mercury in Pisces for this particular
At the final
show.
degree of Pisces, we're going to really, but we're going to be talking about Aries in the fight with Mercury. That's all right. That'll be tough because we'll all be in our heads. You know, I mean, like just spacing, not like analytical in the head, but spacey. So make sure you get a really good Well, you're a good co-host for that, so you should come back. Anyways.
Wow.
Sorry, I've already got the next. I'll have you back again. But
Yes,
I'm having Lori Otto, who you know.
Oh, I do. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's good at directly answering. I think she's an Aries, actually.
Does Norm know?
I don't know. That's up to her to tell me.
Just curious.
Now,
Moving right along.
moving right along. All right. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but that's okay. We have Mercury retrograding on March 22nd. I'll get back to the details of that. But he is going to start to slow down on the 22nd, on the 15th. So when he starts to slow down on the 15th, he's in a shadow on March 15th, retrogrades March 22nd. And I'll get into more of that later. So when Mercury retrogrades again, it is all about going within and, looking at what is important for us if we're moving too fast. I'll get to, do I get to more of that? No, I'll just continue on with that right now. So, yeah, I know. See?
Go.
A little Pisces going on here. Spacey, what's the direct line? There isn't one. So when he is retrograde in Aries, it is about really speaking up for ourselves. We may overstep our bounds no matter what. But when it's retrograde, we're really going to be like sorry for the words we said. Now that doesn't mean everything. So just keep your tongue in check, if you will. Just think about it. Is it okay to, immediately react? Reacting is a Mercury in Aries kind of thing. Responding is a retrograde of Mercury type of thing. So, because that means we thought about it before we answered. So take your time, even with Mercury in retrograde, Mercury in Aries, forward, direct, forward. There's going to be a lot of dialogue going on here.
Now, isn't one of the other aspects of a Mercury retrograde in a place like Aries that it may also be a time when we realize internally that there were things that did bother us that we didn't speak about and they come back out?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
anything relating to communication.
Yeah. So during that Mercury retrograde is the time when you may realize there's some stuff you need to clear.
Yes.
to clear out. Now, the question is, because it's Aries and Mercury, is it better to clear it out while the retrograde is still going on? Normally, we would say, wait till Mercury goes direct and clear the communication, but then the communication is going to be more like, hey, you.
Exactly. It is more appropriate if there is something that needs to come up. If you need to restate something or say something that you didn't say, one of the safest ways to do it, if you feel like this is too aggressive, because Aries can be aggressive, and not everybody is aggressive, is to write it down. Write it down, pretend you're going to send them a letter, and when you're done writing it down, just burn it. You don't have to have that argument or a debate with somebody if it's too uncomfortable for you. So we're not saying if you have something to say to somebody that you have to confront them. Confrontation is scary for people. Not everybody, but that's the way to handle it. I don't like confrontation at all.
Yeah,
It
I don't
drives
either.
me crazy. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Well, and I'm the most non-confrontational person you'll ever meet.
Such a docile creature.
I know.
Yeah.
It goes with the fact that I'm delicate and fragile.
Indeed.
But I do want to say to our viewers here that if you write it down, but it is ongoing bad behavior, you need to speak it, because writing it down is not going to change their behavior if you don't talk to them about it.
No, this is writing down if you need,
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, those are two very different scenarios and situations. So if there is something that you can sit down and write out, I mean, especially if it's somebody that's even passed. I mean, I have a great ritual I love to do. I don't have to do it very often, because once you do it, it's okay, where you connect with somebody in meditation, whether they're here or not, and have the conversation about something that was really painful and hurtful. But we're just talking about having those conversations with somebody. You don't have to do that. Again, write it down if it's for you. You're right. We're not saying it's an excuse for bad behavior with somebody else crossing your boundaries. We still have Pisces energy going on, which knows no boundaries, which can be phenomenal if you have goals in mind, but it's not phenomenal if somebody's constantly asking you or pushing your boundaries.
Well, and there's this whole thing that with Mercury in Aries retrograde, that you may have, what may happen is something is said or somebody does something and they've done it several times and you've brushed it off and brushed it off and brushed it off, and now this is the point where you go, you know, that's not okay. It's
Yeah.
not okay with me. And so the other thing I want, because so many people are afraid of confrontation,
Right.
and because we mishandle confrontation so badly in this country and in this society, that I get that. But the kind of epiphany you may have with a Mercury retrograde in Aries is the kind of thing that says this is something you do have to speak about, because you've kind of let it go, and then this internal thing comes up and goes, yeah, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately what I see happen sometimes, and it's happened to me, is somebody has decided that they really need to speak to me about something which I'm unaware of, but they'll just start avoiding me and backing off and avoiding me, and
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
saying anything,
Right.
they
right.
get mad at you, or because
but don't tell me.
Right, they become silently resentful.
Yeah, and
yeah.
and you would have easily, anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Yep.
Go ahead.
I hear you. March 8th, Jupiter is stationary to retrograde, so this is our first retrograde of the year. So up until March 8th, it's been full steam ahead for a lot of things in our lives, which doesn't typically happen. We don't usually get, all of this time wide open for no retrogrades. And so when things are retrograde, it's not the end of the world. It's just about we get a chance to slow down and focus in. What is it that we truly want? Jupiter went all the way to 23 degrees of Scorpio, because it started in October, so it's been straight for months and months and months. So it is going to take 2 months for this planet, since it is far from here, and the angle that it's at, it's just moving slower, even slower than usual as at the stationary retrograde. 3 degrees, which is nothing, it's like that much space to move. 2 months to move 3 degrees. So that means if you have anything 21, 22, 23 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, this is where it's you're feeling something big is about to happen. It is, because if you're feeling pressure and tension, it's just like when you eat a big meal and your belt is now too tight. You can leave that buckle on and you can feel uncomfortable for a long time, or you can just, if you're at home, undo your buckle, and feel some relief. Meaning, step into something, step into what is giving you the most pressure. Doesn't have to mean that something super bad is happening. It just means if you feel the pressure of something changing. I can't tell you what that pressure is unless I see where this is in your personal chart. For me, it's in my relationship sector, so partnerships, and it connects to other things. So it's like, what do I need in a partnership? What's going on at home for my career? Am I working too much? Am I spending too much time at home? Things like that. So we all have some pressure building with this retrograde, but Jupiter is the benefic, the great benefic, meaning whatever shifts, whether you like it or not, back up and look at the bigger picture. It's for your benefit.
Well, it's interesting because this is all happening in my 12th house.
Yes.
Because I'm at 27 degrees Scorpio, so it's not going to come up.
Right.
It's going to come up and it's going to wave. Hi, I see you. Bye.
Yeah. And back off for a little while. I love it. I mean, I love it. Jupiter is always going to give us the benefit of the doubt, if you will. So if you're worried and you're feeling that pressure, just let it happen. Don't be overly worried about it. Because what feels kind of funny with this one is that March 10th, 11th, and then the 13th, Mercury, as it's slowing down, it's not retrograde yet, is making a square to Saturn, to Mars, and will trine Uranus. And that just gives us, that feels edgy. So I'm telling you about a day where things will feel like they're on a standstill for a little while, even a few days, but then these other transits that come along, so much stuff always happens simultaneously. We're going to feel really edgy. So if something feels super uncomfortable, it could just be Mercury squaring Mars, squaring Saturn, trining Uranus, bam, like that, out of the blue, something's going to shift. So it's a benefit. It's a benefit, even though it might feel kind of crappy at first.
The 11-year-old boy in me chuckled again a moment ago. You can guess when.
Uranus.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not how you said it the first
no,
time.
I know. That's why I said it
the
now.
old way, yes.
Speaking of which, I'm going to actually divert the conversation for 1 second because Dorothy's going to be at the Web of Light Expo and she's going to be talking about
Uranus. Uranus, yes.
And the agent for change.
He is, and he's moving into a new zodiac sign this year for the first time in 7 years, because it takes him 7 years to move through each zodiac sign, approximately. There will be some big changes with that. He's going from one sign, he'll come back into Aries, he'll go back into Taurus. It'll take a whole year before he decides where he's sitting. So there's a lot to talk about with that. It's going to be fun.
So so make sure you come to the Web of Light Expo and see Dorothy and myself and all of us there that are there, and you can come and listen to her presentation, Uranus, the agent of change.
Yeah.
Which I can't wait to hear.
Yeah.
So go ahead. It's just a
right.
perfect time to mention that's what you were
All
doing
right.
this year.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see, what else do we have? Just a couple more things. So March 17th, that is St. Patty's Day. I find this really funny. Okay. We have a new moon in Pisces. So here's some of the side effects of too much Pisces, or even a lot of Pisces, is we want to detach from reality. And how do people detach from reality? Drinking. Drugs, drinking. And so we have the new moon in Pisces on St. Patrick's Day. I just find it hilarious. And it's a Saturday.
Oh my.
God.
Perfect.
What a party day. It's going to be so much of a party. I swear. And you can go and listen to music, because that's Piscean too. But when we have the new moons, especially when they're not eclipses, the new moons are great opportunities just to privately, quietly sit down, write out some goals that feel really comfortable to you. And since it's Pisces, it really is about connecting to your higher self, connecting to your spirit. Maybe you want to do some more writing because you haven't had time. So finding time to do your poetry, finding time to meditate, all of those very spiritual things. So it's a great way to set some goals when we have the new moon in the sign of Pisces.
So here is my recommendation to the viewers.
I see this.
You get up Saturday morning, sleep in a little bit so you have energy for the day. Then between 11 and 1, 11 and 2, put out all of your energies for the new moon, you know, all the great things you're going to do, all the fabulous changes you're going to make, how you're going to have a better relationship and dance better with your higher self and spirit. You're going to embrace your creativity. And then about 3 in the afternoon, you spend the rest of the day celebrating all of these great things you did in green.
Yeah. Yes. Why not, right? Because at 3, I'm looking at the exact day, the new moon is at 9:12 a.m. on the East Coast, and at 3 p.m. East Coast time, the moon enters Aries. So that's just going to be a lot of loud partying.
Mm-hmm. Did I call it or did I call it? You think I was psychic?
My goodness. Wow.
Wow, man.
Such a revelation.
I never knew, man.
Wow. Yeah. Can't believe it. We always learn more about you every day.
Yeah.
All right, what else do I want to say? Here, let me give you some of the keywords for Pisces. We still have a couple minutes. I only have one last thing to talk about. Keywords: imagination, universal love, spiritual healing, compassion. Let's go into the fun stuff. Fantasy, being psychic, being sensitive. So we can increase all of these things with sitting down and writing out what it is that you would like to increase. You know, I easily find more time to meditate, or I easily find time to live in my fantasy world, whatever that is.
Well, let me ask you this question, because I think Matt's aware of, but I'm not sure that you are. You know, a few years back, I started writing a fantasy fiction series.
I didn't know that.
And I got the first book done, got picked up by a publisher, got the second book like 95% done, and the publisher that picked it up went out of business and gave me the rights back.
Oh, good.
And I just stopped it there.
Oh.
Because I just had too many things going on, and I was like, it's just not practical at this point. This is not a main income stream for me yet. But I have all 13, because it's a 13-book fantasy fiction series. I have them all in my head.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've been hanging out there.
Jeez.
They're called the Paradox Prophecies.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
You have a lot of projects
It's
like that,
actually
don't
like
you?
an alternative reality, because the first one takes place in Portsmouth. So it's not full fantasy. It's more like that alternative
I
reality.
need to read it then.
Yeah. The first one actually takes place in Portsmouth and in the square, and also it's in South Street Cemetery and all sorts of stuff. But anyways, so my question is this a good time for me to pick up my fantasy and put that back out?
Why not? But we would need to, honestly, again, need to look at your personal chart, see the big picture. Because one of the things that we're doing here, just to give you guys information, is we really are isolating things, you know, because we're not looking at the big picture. You know, when we do charts and when we look at what's going on, especially for a person, we have to see how these transits are affecting everything, not just where, but, you know, the math connecting them all, because we use geometry for all of this stuff. So we have to see how it looks for other things too. So
this is all in my 4th and 5th house at this point.
well, the 5th house, if it's in the 5th house, is your creativity, what you're passionate about. But if you already have a lot of things that you're passionate about, these energies can just continue to fuel that. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to pick up a new project. I'd want to look at your progress chart, see what's going on with that.
Well, you did it.
I know. I remember it, though. That's the thing.
Okay, so keep going. I
So-
know, I hijacked. It's what I do.
I just realized what you meant about the houses thing. All this time I thought you had gotten into real estate.
Oh.
You had all these houses. I don't know what was going on. I was so confused.
Astrology, there's a section of the astrology wheel. Everything's divided into 12 places, and they call it houses. I like to look at it when I'm teaching, because I teach that a lot. I look at it like the rooms in a home. The rooms in a home have a specific use. I mean, you can multi-purpose.
See, that would be less confusing for someone like me.
I know.
I take things a little too literally.
I hear you. I hear you. And a lot of people do. So each house, each sector of each astrology, a person's astrology chart, they're different sizes depending on the latitude and longitude where you were born. And they each area, first house rules certain things, first room, second room, each sector is in charge of an activity type of behavior. Kitchen, cooking, living room.
And you got a fat 12th and I got a fat first.
Which means if it's the 12th house, the opposite house is just the same size, because as above, so below. Because in astrology, when we know where the horizon is, the horizon, the ascendant, descendant, and then we know exactly where 90 degrees is straight up from there, and then the houses are divided, depending on the system, almost equally or not, but sometimes what happens above the horizon, the mirrored below the horizon, as far as the opposite sign. The numbers are the exact mirror.
Yeah.
So the only other thing that happens this month that I have information to give you on is March 17th, Mars moves into the sign of Capricorn. So we're liking that because Mars has been in Scorpio for a long time. And Mars in Scorpio really digs things up.
How can it go from Mars in Scorpio to Mars in Capricorn?
Oh, sorry. I stepped ahead. It was in Sag. Sorry. I was back like 2 months ago. Thank you. Thank you for that correction.
So does it move into Capricorn?
It does
from
move
Sag?
into Capricorn. No,
Okay.
it is in Sag. Sorry. It is in Sag. It was just in my head. I was off. It is in Sag. And it moves into Capricorn. So while it's in Sag, it is all about exploring education and exploring what our beliefs are. And now that it gets into the sign of Capricorn, not necessarily the best sign for it. I kind of like it here. But Capricorn and Mars, those two energies are considered malefic. Like Jupiter's beneficial, malefic. Could be a problem. So when it's in this sign, it creates... it asks us to look at really what the foundation is. It's going to come and meet Saturn soon. And so it is about restructuring the foundation of what's going on in our lives. So it will move through this sign. It'll take about 7 or 8 weeks. And so it will help us to restructure what's going on there. So what are the lessons of that? And that will be next month. We'll get more into that because it really is affecting more of next month. But that's what that energy is about. So.
Well, which is interesting because, my natal Mars is in Taurus, so it's going to give this Mars a little more oomph because it kind of feeds it. Because
they're both Earth signs, yeah. So it's a trine to it.
So it's trining to my
Yep.
my next thing. One of the things about knowing your chart is some things will soften or lessen because of connection. And other things will actually intensify or make more. So like when Dorothy says to me that, it's going to be playing out in Capricorn and the foundation, which makes sense to me.
In careers and aspirations and all those things that Capricorn is in charge of, which is, our drive to succeed in business and our careers.
Yeah.
So it gives us, this Mars in Capricorn will give us a great drive if that's what you want to.
Yeah, but and you said it goes in when?
March 17th.
March 17th, and it's going to be there for 7 or 8 weeks.
Yep.
So it's going to take me through the Web of Light Expo.
Yep.
Which is April 22nd, 23rd, Earth Day weekend at the Courtyard Marriott. Just mention it so people know if they want to come visit us. So that's very interesting. So that is, if it's a 1 energy-wise, it's now a 1.25 or a 1.5 because it has that additional connection. And again, the more that you know, about your own chart, the more that you can apply the information and see where it's going to play out and either be softened, lessened, or intensified or increased.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah, see, this is in my 9th house, and 9th house is about what you believe. And since I'm a teacher, it's also about teaching, but learning as well. So, and I'm learning a lot of new things. I got some new courses going on in my own head, and I've been teaching a lot. So it just helps a person to shift wherever the Capricorn is for you. It gives us that drive. Saturn's already been there for the last few weeks, so
Second house.
yeah.
Everybody's got all these houses.
Second house,
We
second
all
room.
have 12.
Okay.
Awesome.
So I want to thank you very much for coming as we
Thank
close
you.
down
Yes,
today's
Thank you,
show.
yes.
Thank you.
Informational and informative
Yes.
as well. So we're coming into the time of Pisces. You've been given information to tell you what's going to be going on in the skies, what your planetary influences are going to be. You still get to choose what you're going to do with the influences. You can turn your back on them, doesn't make them go away. You can embrace them and look at them, but they shouldn't be your decision makers solely. They should just be influencers. They're planetary influences. Take the information and with it, make better decisions. Namaste.